Conservation of Energy is a Law All of the Time by Vinyasi on the 20th of May 2026. Introduction. As pointed out in my paper referenced below, over-unity is supported by the general theory of relativity, since the direction of time always appears to be moving forward from the perspective of energy, while from our perspective, anything is possible. Slower, faster, or a backward direction. The relativity of energy and the reversal of time is a shift in perspective. IJCI, Volume 12, Number 2, April 2023. Thus, energy fulfills the thermodynamics of a damping wave, regardless of its temporal direction, since energy never wavers from its dynamic point of view. In other words, energy always suffers from entropy from its perspective. Our observation is notwithstanding. This is vitally important to keep in mind. By the way, over-unity is more energy within an electrical circuit or a mechanical device than whatever is provided by its various external sources. It is crucial to maintain these distinctions, lest we misjudge how to apply the conservation of energy to its behavior versus the application of conservation to our observation of its behavior. These are two distinct points of reference which we must keep separate from each other or risk losing our scientific credibility, especially whenever they are counter-oppositional to each other. Hint: the conservation of energy breaks down whenever a time shift occurs, such as during its reversal, which is allowed by the theorem of Noether. This theorem is best described as allowing for a loophole of the non-conservation of energy if time should suffer from any alteration of its forward consistency when viewed from our perspective outside of energy. Discussion. All of the time. This phrase implies the consistency, the non-variance of the forward arrow of time. Thus, conservation of energy is upheld as a subset of all the laws of physics which are also upheld, so long as the forward arrow of time is non-variant. But the instant in which time becomes not non-variant is the moment when all the laws of physics go down the toilet, and we will have to fend for ourselves for answers to the riddles of energetic life. Notice how I snuck into this discussion the use of a double negative when I mentioned not non-variant. The theorem of Noether is more sleazy. It uses the phrase of not invariant, which is harder for us to catch this instance of a double negative. Only attorneys who write the statutes and regulations of our society would dare to use a double negative to thwart understanding among common folk who lack sleazy motives for pulling the wool over our eyes. Scientists and theoreticians would never do this, since only honesty is within their character, without any ulterior motives to gain an advantage over the unsuspecting population. You can bet there is something afoot that is not in our best interests, whenever plain speech cannot be used. I use simulations under trial and error conditions to learn how free energy operates. At the very least, it oftentimes operates by restricting input so as to prevent too much regulation or suppression of reactance. This encourages the chaotic, non-linear quality of reactance to supersede the consistency of the forward arrow of time by spawning an alternative frame of reference for time called a parasitic oscillation. All instances of time are measured with periodic oscillations. There can be no awareness of time without the regulated periodicity of an oscillation which is held to be consistent over time, such as our use of cesium atomic clocks or quartz crystal oscillators in our wristwatches. But the instant a periodic fundamental frequency spawns a slightly chaotic set of parasitic oscillations, the consistency of the periodic fundamental which spawned the parasite is at risk of being superseded by the parasitic oscillation if various reactances are set up with the intention of dominating the fundamental's amplitude with the amplitude of the parasite. Since the fundamental input frequency is the original reference for time from the point of view of energy, this dominance, which is imposed upon the fundamental by the parasitic, skews the perception of the fundamental from the point of view of the parasitic as being slower in frequency than the parasitic, and thus shifting backwards in time. This, of course, is a matter of perspective, but is a convincing illustration when everything is taken together for assessment. This inversion of the forward arrow of time is when the laws of physics as a whole break down, destroying any singular law along with the entire set of laws. Thus, a parasite of harmonic distortion need not conform to the laws of physics. It can jolly well do as it pleases. This resolves the mystery behind free energy.